Good morning, YouTube family. Today we are going to be answering some questions that we received in our comments about our propagation house. Where did you get it? What other equipment are you using? And how much did it cost? We're going to go through each individual item, and at the end, I'll give you a total breakdown of the cost that we have in our propagation house. Follow me in the propagation house, and I'll kind of give you a breakdown of what we've got. So we've got just a little greenhouse that we bought off of Amazon, and it was very, very inexpensive for a greenhouse. I had no idea that they were that inexpensive, but we've used that. And then I built very inexpensively just some propagation tables using 4x4s and a few 2x4s. And this is decking wood. And I think I've got about $75 in the cost of building this. We used a little bit of landscape fabric. Underneath we used, I think it's a 1/4-inch fence wire and just something to hold that and allow water to drain through. This is just some water pipe that I had left over, just some PEX water pipe, and just to build a frame to put our misting system on. So one important thing that you need to think about when you're setting up a propagation house is site location. You have to think about wind. These propagation houses are not meant to stand up to high winds. So we chose this location because I've got it next to sorry about the rooster over there, he's being loud. But we put it right next to one of our warehouses here. And then on behind it, we've got the woods there that block the winds coming from the west. Most of our winds come from either the southwest or westerly. So this is actually a perfect spot. We've got wind blocks, so we don't have to worry about winds. We've had winds up to 60, 70 mile an hour here at times. The house has been perfectly fine. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our tables here that we built. Maybe you can see it a little bit better over on this one, but we've got 4x4s for our legs, and we've got 6 of those. We've got a few 2x4s that run horizontal across here just to give us a little extra support. And then we're using decking boards for our sides. On the inside, we're using just a very inexpensive landscape fabric, something that will allow water to penetrate through, because you don't want the water sitting in here, so you want it to be able to drain. And then if you can come and look, let's see if we can see the wire that I'm using, the wire mesh underneath. May not be able to get a good picture of that. Now we're going to talk about the misting. This was something that took some trial and error for me. These were the first misters that I purchased, and they weren't quite really misters. I mean, they're considered misters, but it was wasn't very fine mist, and it was almost more of a watering type sprinkler system. I never could get them to work just right, and after they would spray, it would just drip. And so you really want a very fine mist. You don't want it to just saturate. We have these separated. If you can come in here and look at this. So I've got these about every 10 inches apart, and I've got 2 layers of these. And this is probably about a foot apart. And you just want a nice even spray mist over your propagation area. And I run these every 10 minutes for 10 seconds. And so we've got those on a timer. This, and I'll link these down. I'll have a whole list of everything that we use. But you can see that if you can get right in on that, you can see that this is a much nicer misting system than what I had prior. And it works very well. It gives you a nice, very fine mist. This is a very inexpensive timer. And it's a timer that you plug your valve into, and it's just a 110 plug. And the nice thing about this, because you really need it so that you can narrow your timing down to seconds. So you got to have a timer that will do seconds. This is, I think I paid maybe $14 for this on Amazon, but it works very well. It's a little difficult to program, but once you get it programmed, it's done. I'll link a video that I found that did a very good job on actually programming this. There's no sense in me doing it again, but I'll link that down in the bottom. So this is just a simple rainbird valve and for a sprinkler system. And I use this, I think again, I paid $15, $16. It's not a very expensive one, but it works. And again, we'll have that link down in the bottom. What type of dirt do you use for your propagation area? You can use anything that you want. Just about anything will work. You just don't want something that's going to hold a whole lot of moisture. You want it to be able to drain. What I found works for us is we use sphagnum peat moss and perlite, and we use about a 50-50 mix. Some people will use just perlite by itself. I've seen that, and that works perfectly fine. Some people use sand. Sand will work. Some people will use pine bark for their propagation. This is just perlite that I buy at one of your big box stores. You can get it from Home Depot, Lowe's, your local garden center. It's just perlite. I buy bags of that, and then I'll mix it with just a sphagnum peat moss. And this is a 2 cubic foot. I buy these because the 3 are just so heavy, and it's easier just to move these around when I need them. But I'll mix 50-50 sphagnum peat moss with the perlite, and that seems to work great. If you wanted to use a fine pine bark, this is what it looks like. It's just very fine pine bark. You can use that. That works great as well. The next thing I want to talk about is the rooting hormone. This is Take Root, and this one is Clonex. We use both. It really doesn't matter. Just any of your rooting hormones will work just fine. You can pick them up in your big box store, Amazon. Different locations have it. I have a video that I will link in the description that shows you how to use the rooting hormones. I also want to mention that the importance of shade when you are propagating your plants. They need to be in a shady area. So what I did to take care of this was I purchased a shade cloth, and this particular shade cloth is a 55%. You could go with a 40%. They have all different degrees. So I would just make sure that if you're not in a shady area, to make sure that you do put shade cloth over your greenhouse, just to take that direct sun off, because it will burn your plants if you're not careful. Okay, so now that we have discussed all the different items that we have in our propagation house, let's go over the cost of each and every item. And so let's start with the greenhouse first. So this greenhouse is a 10 by 6.5 by 6.5. We paid $89.99, and we got that from Amazon. They have different sizes that you can choose from. This worked perfectly for us, but they have larger ones. I think this is the smallest. After the greenhouse, we got the shade cloth, which is a 55% shade cloth. You can get a 40%. You can get different percentages. The 55% works good. 40% would work as well. So we paid $25.99 for that, and we got that from Amazon as well. The material for the table, this is going to really depend on the size table that you are using. We've got 6-foot tables. We've got 2 of them, and each one costs us about $38 to $40. I've got $75 in here for the materials. And so that would be less if your tables were smaller, and also it would be more if your tables were larger. We bought this at Home Depot. You could go to Lowe's and get it as well. Our misters, the ones that we're using currently in the house, We've got two of them, one for each table, and we've got a total of $50. I think those are $25 a piece. We got those at Amazon as well. And I'll put all these links in the description just so you'll have access to those. The timer was $15.99, and we got that from Amazon. And then the Rainbird 3/4 inch sprinkler valve, we got that from Lowe's, but you could get it from Home Depot as well. I think it was actually a little bit cheaper at Lowe's hardware than it was from Amazon. It was $17, and uh, we did get this from Lowe's. You're going to need an AC transformer, a 24-volt transformer, to plug that into your timer. And that was $16, and we got that from Amazon as well. So that's the cost, the total cost of each item. Let's see, let's get a sum here of what all of it cost. And so that's a total of $289.97. Now we have not included the dirt and that you would use for your propagation, but that's going to vary. So it's kind of hard to say. I think we've got probably about another $40 in our propagation material that we're using. So that's going to change depending on what you want to use. So that's our total breakdown, our total cost. And like I say, it may vary slightly from where you live and also the size that you want to do. Excuse me. But yeah, if you got any questions, if there's something that I did not explain as well that you would like more clarification on, put those down in the comments. I look at comments every day, and I'll be happy to answer all your questions. Guys, I thank you for watching this video, and if you have found it helpful, would you give me a like and subscribe if you like this type of material. I'm going to keep pumping out this type of material in the future. And so until next time, keep on farming.